Knowing how to build a fire is one of the most important survival skills you can learn. Fire has meant life itself to many who have relied upon it for warmth and light. Your fire-making abilities are a measure of your wilderness survival savvy. But lighting the fire is only half the battle. Building it, how you arrange the wood, will determine how long it lasts and how much heat it will give off. Only with practice can you truly master the art of making fire. I'm going to briefly educate you on some fire architecture so you can build a perfect fire of your own. Before we get started, we need to gather 4 materials that will help us. We need an ignition source, some tinder, a bit of kindling, and a whole bunch of fuel. First, our ignition source. Anything that will give off a hot enough flame or spark to light the tinder. We can use the obvious, matches, lighters. Some skilled people can even rub 2 sticks together to produce a spark. Second, we're going to want to gather some tinder. The role of tinder is to catch the initial spark and to burn long enough so it can light up the kindling, which is slightly bigger than it. We can use some dead grass and plants, some wood shavings, and some bark, dry bark that's already fallen off trees. You can even use a knife to produce a powdery tinder from the sticks. Third, we're going to want to gather some kindling. Kindling is more bulky than tinder, but it's thin so it ignites easily. Tinder lets off a very hot flame, which will in turn light the fuel source. We can use twigs, pieces of wood that we cut from a larger piece of wood with an axe. And fourth, we'll want to gather a lot of fuel. Fuel is the main heavy bulk that will sustain a stable fire. It burns slowly and steadily, it produces a great amount of heat, and it produces a hotbed of coals that will continue to radiate heat and light for an extended period of time. We can use big wooden logs, tree branches, anything that is bulky enough that will burn for a long amount of time. The arrangement of these materials will determine how successfully your fire catches initially. The most successful of arrangements I've found to be the teepee method. Over here. In the teepee method, we have some tinder surrounded by kindling in the shape of a cone. You want to make sure these materials are spaced loosely so air can circulate, but also close enough so they can share a common flame. This structure produces a chimney where, when lit, it will suck air from the bottom and pull it up through the top. Once it gets going, you want to slowly add more and more kindling because as it burns, the outer pieces will fall inward and feed the fire. I'm lighting a piece of hemp covered with beeswax because it stays lit for a while and it will allow me to really get it in there. Going to light it, stick it in as far as I can, get my fire going. Once your fire starts burning well, once it starts getting going, you want to slowly add bigger and bigger pieces of kindling. Slowly blow to add heat. Once the fire starts burning well, once you add bigger and bigger pieces of kindling and you really start to get a flame going, you'll want to add your fuel sources. You want to start with smaller logs, gradually go to bigger logs. The fuel will burn slowly, it will produce sustained heat and a hotbed of coals for multiple purposes. Now that you've got your fire going, you can cook food, boil water to make it safe to drink. You can create light to scare away animals, and you can stay warm all night. The ability to make a fire can only come through practice. So go ahead, build a campfire in a backyard fireplace, at a campsite, anywhere that you can gain valuable experience on a very important life skill. Most importantly, though, you need to make sure your fire is completely out before you leave it. I mean, completely out cold. Prevent forest fires.